Action! Hi, my name is Sahana. In my YouTube series, Time to Shine, I set out on a mission to spotlight different experiences and perspectives of people of all ages to inspire you, my audience, to dig deeper and find your true calling in life. Welcome back. I'm your host, Sahana, and thank you for following along with the interview. In this segment, we find out how Dan spends his free time and what his passions are.
Other than teaching, what are some of your other passions?
I wanted to have quarantine be a time that I look back on, and yeah, it's a very unique time and it has lots involved. It's a very complicated time, but one of the things I've decided to look back on it and say that's the time that I learned how to make bread. So I've been baking bread since quarantine started. I actually have some dough that's next to me right here, actually, and yeah, started mixing it up this morning. It's actually
Wow.
And so I'm making some bread. I make bread a ton, and that's been really great. I love the medium-term payoff of it. It's not an instant gratification thing. I don't like immediately get it, but it's also not multiple days. It's by the end of the day, I'll hopefully have 2 really beautiful loaves of bread. I love being outside. I love traveling. I love learning. I love reading, and going phases on what I'm reading. Yeah, really miss some of those things. Travel for me has been something that's been important every year, and this year I haven't been able to do that much, but that's okay. It's been that I've been able to explore my neighborhood and walk around out here. So spending time with family and friends, lots of Zoom calls lately. Yeah, those are the sorts of things I spend most of my time doing.
Yeah, definitely quarantine has helped me realize some new passions or dig deeper in some stuff that I wasn't really able to before quarantine, for sure. I also enjoy baking a lot. As you may know, I am a baker. I was a contestant on season 8 of Food Network's Kids Baking Championship, and I know you are a baker as well. So please tell me about that passion and what is your go-to recipe?
What initially brought me to bread, 2 things. I was looking at some like old paintings, and I just always saw bread on the table. And then I started thinking like, oh, they had bread everywhere, and every meal has bread. And then I started wondering how to make it. And then they do that like there are so many varieties of it that it feels like it's almost endless, right? Like you can get naan and pita and boules and croissants and baguettes and all sorts of different things can come out of it. And so I was like, this is like worldwide, this idea of some sort of grain turned into bread. And then it's kind of been central to human meals for a long time. Plus, as I get together with friends or go to dinner, there's never really a meal that's not made better by a fresh loaf of warm bread. So that was kind of my motivation in it. And then I just had a lot of fun. I think I got lucky the first couple, and they came out really great. So I got some good momentum, Like I was like, oh, I can do this. Then the next couple didn't go too well. I don't know what happened. I lost the secret sauce, but then now they're coming back and pretty consistent. So really enjoying it. Love giving them to people. My go-to recipe, the book that I use all the time, is this tartine book. Tartine's a bakery in San Francisco. It was a recommendation of a friend. The very first recipe in it is the one that's my go-to. I've done it so many times that as you make bread, like you kind of know the consistency or where it needs to be at certain points. And that one I got down. So I'm like, ooh, I need to add a little bit of this, or it needs a little more time. But that's my go-to for sure. Now I'm getting into baguettes. I'm really wanting to get baguettes down, but they're tough. They're tough.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'm also starting to get a little bit more into bread, but I'm mostly focusing on other pastries and stuff.
Okay.
But bread is definitely a work on its own, and that's really cool. Were you self-taught?
So I had a friend who gave me my first starter. So I mentioned to a friend that I wanted to get into it, and he brought me this, little plastic container filled with, bubbling flour. And I was like, okay, what's this? How do I do it? And I asked him some questions, and then I got started. I bought this book, the Tartine book, which then I just followed it. But also tons of YouTube videos, tons of experimentation. I love just switching one thing and seeing what happens. I love, I make 2 loaves of bread, and one of them I stick in the freezer, and the other one I bake, and then I see how they compare afterwards to see whether I can freeze the dough. And I love just like switching up one thing, adding a little bit of this. I've done it without really anybody saying this is how you do it, but tons of teachers along the way through YouTube or a friend or using a book and somebody else's knowledge there.
I'm also a self-taught baker, but definitely, I guess it's by self-taught, I mean, you always get these influences from YouTube, friends, and one follow-up question that I'd like to ask you is, what is your favorite bread to eat, and what's your favorite bread to make?
To eat, I love croissants or pain au chocolat. That I've made them a couple times, and they come out pretty well. They're like good. They're not great, but they're good. And now eating them, when I go get a really good one, I'm just amazed. But I know kind of the process, right? Like I'm like, this is how they made it. It's all these layers of butter, and how did I get it to do that, right? Like I had so much trouble with it, and then this. So those are my favorite to eat because they look like these little engineering marvels of like layered butter and dough. And as I get in, I'm like, how did it get so flaky? And all of those sorts of things. So that's to eat, and they're delicious, right? And to make would be baguettes. Lately, I was just thinking, I can make this boule. The standard recipe is the one I make all the time. The one I'm gonna make today. Baguettes, I feel like they're just so unique. And like I keep thinking of this idea of a really good one where it's got a really crunchy outside but soft on the inside and delicious, and really could help. Same with most bread, could help any meal, right? If you wanted a sandwich, you can make it on a baguette. If you wanted a soup, you could have a baguette. So I was like, this seems to be the one that I want to get down next. So that's what I'm really enjoying lately, and it's really fun too to get all these little. It's like a plank of wood, right? But the first time I made baguettes, and this may be too much, but you transfer the baguette, but the dough is like loopy, so I end up totally ruining the baguette. And so then buy this little tool. It's like just a wooden plank that you can transfer it onto, and now everything's fixed. But it's fun to realize that there's a tool for everything. It's like there are people who've already had these problems, and all I have to do is like research a little bit. Oh, they have something for it. So it's been fun to accumulate those and learn little tricks. And so yeah, baguettes I think to make right now are really fun.
Have you ever attempted making donuts?
I haven't. They're on my list, but I haven't braved the donuts yet. Have you?
Yes, personally, I've made donuts, I think 3 times. I've made one time with no yeast, and the other 2 times I made them with yeast. It's very different from like store-bought donuts. You just get that like sensation that I made this and it actually tastes good. Yeah, I get that. For me, I put bread in the oven and then I kind of like wait and I don't see it for a little bit, and then I look at it and I just hope everything works out. There's this moment of like, did I do it right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that about it.
Definitely.
And it's been fun during this time when I'm at home more frequently.
Yeah. Other than baking, do you have any other special talents?
So I speak French pretty well, and I speak Spanish pretty well. My French is quite a bit better. I lived in Tunisia for a summer, and then when I was a consultant, I did some work in France and some work in Montreal, where everybody mostly spoke English, but it was helpful to be able to speak French. I did some work in Switzerland, so my French is pretty good. My Spanish is less good, but I can certainly get by on it. So I think that's one. Scuba diving, I don't know if that's an unusual one, but I've gotten into that lately. So I love going scuba diving, and out here in California, there's some really good dives.
Definitely, that's super cool.
Thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to check out the rest of the interview on my channel. Bye!